So let's dive right into politics this morning. There's a lot of talk about 2027, but I'm sure you are concerned about today, at least today, tomorrow, and the next. How governance is delivering, how well or otherwise it is delivering, and the role of the opposition in ensuring that the main party has policy alternatives. Well, there's just some form of well-rounded conversation happening. But the PDP so far, instead of playing a role of opposition, is experiencing more opposition within its own ranks. And we have joining us on the show this morning Mr. Larry Olayinka, who's the Senior Special Assistant in Public Communications and Social Media to the FCT Minister. He was formerly the spokesperson of former Ekiti State Governor Ayodele Fayose, joining us from our Abuja studio. And on Zoom is Mr. Kemeni Udim, lawyer, public affairs analyst, immediate past legal advisor of local government chapter of his party, the PDP, and senior partner Justice Chambers, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Morning Brief.
Yeah, good morning.
Well, Mr. Olayinka, let me begin with you. You're close to, or at least closer to where all of the drama played out last week. And I imagine that this is not something that members of the PDP, lovers of the PDP, or those affiliated to the PDP want to see. First, how are you taking those events? Because you are close to one of the principal characters in all of this, or at least in the PDP. That's the FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike. So how is he internalizing all of this? I mean, the party that he loves so much, the PDP.
Well, to me, it is very painful. It is very painful that we are in this kind of situation, self-inflicted situation, I'll call it. It is very painful to me. It is very painful that somebody who should not be at that BOT meeting choose to come to the BOT meeting. How he was invited, who told him to come there, I don't understand. I don't understand why somebody who is claiming to be national secretary of the party, when that position has never been vacant, will be allowed to come to the party secretariat to attend BOT meeting. And that's the genesis of some of these things. And that's why I call it self-inflicted. When you choose not to obey your own rules, when you choose not to obey your own constitution, you find yourself in this kind of situation. I hope and I pray that we'll be able to solve all these issues, face reality, obey our own laws.
Mr. Olayinka, who are you referring to? Who are you referring to as a person that was not meant to be at that meeting?
I'm referring to the former national youth leader of the party, Ude Okoye. Ude Okoye came to the party, to the national secretariat last week, claiming to be national secretary of the PDP. And everything, every fact on ground, every fact, the position of the constitution of the PDP does not support that his claim.
So are you deciding to choose the facts, Mr. Olayinka? Because some will say there is a court backing, the appeal court ruling. There is a governance of the PDP supporting him. So which of the facts are you choosing not to look at those facts?
Number one, the position of the party constitution is very clear. When a party officer, for instance, national officer of the party, going to contest election into public office, does not need to resign his position. The party constitution did not say, the party constitution has no provision to defend that as national officer, maybe national secretary, chairman, or whatever. When you want to go and contest elected position, that you should resign. There's nowhere in the constitution of the PDP where that is stated. Anyone with that kind of provision should show us, number one. So as at the time Senator Samaya went to Imo State to contest the governorship, he did not resign his position as the national secretary of the party. And there's no reason for him to resign. Then when he lost that election, he came back to his position. And before that time, some people just sat in somewhere and said they have heard the Sona Congress, a Sona meeting, and somebody has emerged. When the party constitution, section 47(2) of the party is very clear. It says that national officer of the party shall emerge at national convention. That is the position of the party. So as national secretary, you cannot emerge at any zonal congress or any zonal meeting. So the question is, where did Ude Okoye, let's even assume that at Samaya, assuming but not consider that he resigned, assuming but not consider that position was vacant. When did PDP hold national convention to elect a new secretary? When the PDP hold national convention to elect Samaya?
Mr. Laika, let's take it to Mr. Ekemini. Let's take it to Mr. Ekemini. Mr. Ekemini, I would like your response as well. Apparently, Mr. Ale has taken his own position, and that's the problem we're dealing with. So everybody has a posturing. On one hand, there's the argument as to the fact that there's no legislation to the effect that someone has to resign. On the other hand, there are quotations about the Constitution and then the laws of the party. But the fact is, Mr. Samayen went to contest the controversy whether he should resign, should not resign. Somebody appointed, went to court. 20th, a judgment was given in favor of Mr. Ude Okoye. 24th of December, I think the National Publicity Secretary, Ologun Agba, read it and said the party recognizes it became a subject of litigation. And then a stay of execution was filed, was to be heard, maintain status quo ante bellum, and they are saying wait for the Supreme Court decision. We understand that, for the records, Mr. Leary, we understand that Mr. Ude Okoye was actually invited to find a path to resolve the issue before things went out of hand. I don't know what is your position, Mr. Odim, on this particular issue of Mr. Ude Okoye versus Samayen, which is the biggest controversy in the PDP. And as you're answering that, this issue of how a party leader at the NWC is to be replaced, I also like you to speak to it, because that is the issue Damagun is dealing with. Now Samayen is dealing with that issue.
The PDP as a party should not be a party that tends to argue with court rulings and judgments. Okoye has gone to court, and the court has made a pronouncement in his favor. It would be wrong to still say, oh, there is nothing like that. We do not know of anything like that, because there is a decision of the court in his favor. And so when my colleague there is saying, oh, it has never been in our constitution that if you go to contest election, that you resign your seat and all that, I think the party has passed that level. We are at the point that there is a decision of the court on this matter, and the matter has gone to a higher court, and the matter is now before the Supreme Court. I would have loved the argument to be, okay, we are doing this because there is a matter at the Supreme Court. But to say that it has never been, it is not in our constitution, I think the party has gone beyond that. As a political party, ours must be a party that respects decisions of court. At the moment, there is a decision of the court on that subject, the subject of the national, secretary of the party. And I think that the party ought to, respect that decision of the court. Now, when we say that a man can leave an active office in the party, an office that requires your presence on a day-to-day basis, if the party is to be properly run, the national secretary of the party needs to be there from day to day. It's not an ad hoc, position. When you say that, I have the right to contest election in my state, leave the office of the national secretary of the party, I close it, I lock it up, and go. And if I become unsuccessful, I come back. Now what happens during the time of my absence? I do not think that a political party should be run that way, which is one of the problems of our political party today. The party should be run on a day-to-day basis and should be run consensuously. The party should not be such that I can go on sabbatical and then come back at any time. No matter what happens to the affairs of the party, it is not important. Now, we should be able to, officers of the party should be able to work for the soul of the party and not for the individual interest only. If we do not have anything like that in the constitution of our party, where if you want to go for an elective office, you have to at least resign, go for that elective office. Then there's a serious lacuna in the constitution of the PDP. We must have such provision in the constitution where if you take the decision to go to your own state, to contest election to be governor, to contest election to be senator, you should be able to put in your resignation letter so as to allow another person to take over the office and then perform the day-to-day responsibility of that office. Because this is one of the problems of the PDP. At the moment, it's an issue of who is the authentic secretary of the PDP. This one is dragging it, this one is dragging it. I do not think that the party should be run that way. Talking about the national chairmanship of the party, you know, it is also part of the problems of the party.
Okay.
When Dr. Iyorchaiu resigned from the political party, one would have expected that the PDP would make an immediate replacement, the kind of replacement that resonates with the entire membership of the party. Now, if for any reason you say, okay, somebody should be in the acting capacity, is a person expected to be in acting capacity forever? It shouldn't be so.
Okay.
If you say that someone should be in acting capacity, just like you start acting, you call it acting, no one should be acting forever. It is for the leadership of the political party to move in as quickly as possible and see how we can have a substantive chairman of the political party, and this will help the party.
All right, Mr. Odin, let me take it to Mr. Lair. Mr. Lair, I would like you to respond to some of the things that Mr. Odin has said. Look, he said, we've gone past the issue of whether the party requires somebody to resign or not. Now there's a decision of court which has to be respected. We know there's a stay of execution applied. I don't know what the hearing of that outcome was, but it's now the Supreme Court. I would like you to respond to that. And in your view, how come that the Electoral Act, I think Section 8412 also, and some sections of the Constitution, if I remember, 66, 137, 107, some requires that you resign before you contest elective position, but the PDP seem to not to have that in the articles of their party. Because we need to query that.
Let me take your last question first. That aspect of constitution that you are referring to is talking about public service. If you are in the public service, you resign. It is stated in the Constitution and the Electoral Act. So there's difference between being in the public service and holding
Mr. Lere, just a moment. Just hold on, Mr. Lere. I'm aware of what I said. I know it's public service. There's the argument of civil servant, public service. I'm just saying, how come somebody serving in those positions? The law.
I'm just telling you that.
Just a minute. Just hold on. Just a minute. The law says resign 30 days before, but when it comes to the party politics itself, why is that not adopted? That's just my question. I know what I asked.
That is what I'm saying. Until the constitution of the party states that is when you can begin to enforce it. As of today, nothing like that in the constitution of the PDP. Maybe like my brother to the other person said, it is a lacuna. But the moment it is not there, you cannot enforce it. Then he also mentioned that, I thought to my mind you said he's a lawyer. Good. He said that he said that the pronouncement of the court should be obeyed. I'm fine with that, and I'm also in tandem with that. We should obey. PDP should obey its own law, and also obey judgments of the court. As of today, there was a judgment of the appeal court saying Ude Okoye should be national secretary. But on that judgment of the appeal court, a stay of execution was filed. And in law, the moment you file a stay of execution, the moment you file that motion for stay of execution on a judgment, that judgment cannot come to effect until that stay of execution is determined. That is the position of the law. The moment you file, not even talking about the court ruling on the stay of execution now. When you file before the court, the law says that you must not take any step for that judgment to take effect until the court
all right,
rule on the
Mr.
state of
Lanka,
execution.
pardon me.
But
Mr. Odim, let's quickly bounce this off a legal practitioner.
Let me conclude this.
No, you made a statement in law.
This,
you will. Just
I have to
pause.
conclude this.
All right, go ahead. You just made a statement that we need to fact check with a lawyer.
I need to conclude.
But you can conclude your thoughts.
I need to conclude this,
yes,
please. Then on this one again, the court has said status quo antebellum should be maintained. Status quo antebellum, the meaning is that what was obtainable before the hostility, what was obtained, the situation before the crisis started, that is status quo antebellum. That is what the Court of Appeal said. So as of today, the status quo antebellum was that to defend that Sam Anyanwu was the secretary before, because the bone of contention is the secretary. So he was the secretary until the crisis started. That is status quo ante. That is the position of the law of the court. Anybody saying any other thing apart from this may have to at least, because a 100 level law student knows that status quo antebellum means that what was obtainable before the crisis started. And what was obtainable in this instance case was that Sam Anyanwu was the secretary. Simple. There's no two ways about that.
All right. So let's take those two issues quickly, just so we can get the most of this conversation. To the legal practitioner, Mr. Udim, is that correct? That once the stay of execution is filed, the judgment is stayed, whether or not the stay of execution has been decided by the court or not. And then the status quo bit, maybe you can speak to it, but the point is this stay of execution bit, quickly.
Well, the filing of the stay of execution only does not stop the judgment of a court from taking effect. Mere filing of motion for stay of execution. Rather, it is the law that judgment of courts of law take immediate effect. I mean, that's the only way you can give meaning to the industry of the court. So take a matter from commencement down to judgment is a long process. It's a tedious job for the judges. And therefore, the only way you can, give meaning to that industry is the position of the law that says that judgments of courts of law take immediate effect. And that's it. It's a global concept, right? But when a stay of execution is filed, it does not automatically stay the judgments of the court from taking effect. It's like filing an appeal against a decision of the lower court. Just filing the notice of appeal alone does not stop the judgment of the lower court from taking effect. Now, let me concentrate on the issue of filing of stay of execution. When you file, like I said, it does not automatically stop the judgment of the court of law from taking effect. However, when you take a step further to argue the motion for stay of execution, and the court grants that motion and says, the judgment that I gave, the judgment that we give is hereby stayed. The judgment that we give is hereby, yet stayed. It therefore means that everything returns to status quo. In that case, if the Sam Anyanwu come, if they have gone to the Court of Appeal that gave the judgment and have asked for stay of execution, and the stay has truly been granted by my lords, the justices of the Court of Appeal, it therefore means that everybody has to respect that latest decision of the appellate court on the subject. But to say that once you file, it stays, no, that's not the exact position of the court. But like I said, if you take a step further, it's usually motion on notice. So you have to serve it on the other party. They come to the court, they present argument, and when the court then looks at two sides of the argument and sees reason to stay execution, then if that has happened, it therefore means that all of us in the PDP, we have to respect that latest decision of the appellate court. The leadership of the PDP at the moment, you have to respect that latest decision of the appellate court. It may not be convenient.
All right, Mr. Ekemini, just before we let it go and send it back to Mr. Leah, just legal question, stay with the legalese. So if a stay of execution is filed, how long does it hold? Because I think that was part of the controversy. Besides, I heard that Mr. Ode was actually invited. There was also the argument that the stay of execution request or appeal was to be heard on the 27th, which was, I think, a Monday. I don't know whether it was really heard and it was granted. I don't know. That fact I can't speak to. But I want to find out exactly how long is the stay of execution. How long can they now say, okay, it's no longer tenable, then the other action can take place? Just education in terms of the law here.
Well, it will depend on the language of the court. Because it's an order, it's usually an order. An order is hereby granted, staying execution of the judgment. If the court says, pending the determination of the appeal at the Supreme Court, then that's clear. You have to wait until the matter is determined at the Supreme Court. If the court says it is stayed pending the happening of an event, you wait for that event. But mostly in situations like this, the court would mostly say execution should be stayed pending the hearing and determination of the appeal at the Supreme Court. Now, Let me say this. Once that is done, everybody has to down tool. Everybody has to wait the determination of the Supreme Court on the matter. Now, it begs the question again, how soon can the Supreme Court decide matters when filed before the court? Some cases have been in the Supreme Court for many years because of the docket of the Supreme Court is already full. So some cases have been in the Supreme Court for as much as 3, 4, 5 years. If that happens in this case, then it would have defeated the whole essence of going to court. So my own would be, it's an appeal, that my lords of the Supreme Court, with due respect, should see this as a matter of national interest.
Okay, Mr. Odum.
And then should look at the rules, breach the rules, and see how this matter can be heard as quickly as possible, because a major political party in Nigeria is suffering.
Or in the interim, or on the flip side, Mr. Odum, the parties can just withdraw their cases in court and settle this internally. That is, if they're able to. So I'll take this to Mr. Lainka, because as Mr. Odum said, this case can last in the court for years. That's if it's not granted that accelerated hearing in that sense. And imagine if it lasts up until after 2027, what will become of the PDP? So, Mr. Lainka, it's been said that in resolving this internally, the FCT minister plays a huge role. Some have described him as the bone stuck in the neck of the PDP. Some say he's the key to the peace in the PDP. When you bounce these issues off him, what is his own position really, at least when it comes to peace in the PDP? Does he see himself as that bone stuck in the throat of the PDP, and whatever PDP does until they find a way to placate him, things will not move on?
You are talking about the FCT minister, right?
Yes, certainly.
Well, his position is simple. And his position is that the party, like I said, should obey its own rules. The party should be run normally. We should stop working to answer. We should stop looking at issue as it affects me or as it affects my interest. That is his position. And that is why he has come out on many occasions to say that let the rules of the party be obeyed. And like I've said here, the rule of the party, and I quoted section 47(2) of the Constitution of the PDP, is to the effect that national officers of the party should emerge from a national convention. Even if we are saying that these people have resigned, that's what I said. There is a provision of the Constitution of the party as to replacement, and the provision is clear. Section 47(2), and that is what Minister Yesowike is that is his position. Let the party obey its own rule. Like my brother said, he said the moment you file appeal at the Supreme Court on this matter of National Secretary, appeal has been filed before the Supreme Court. A stay of execution is before the appeal court. The appeal court has said maintain status quo ante bellum pending the determination of the motion for stay of execution. That is the point. And if we are not too careful, I'm worried about this. If we are not too careful, 2027 is just 2 years from now. By this time next year, we'll be talking about party primaries and all that. If we are still struggling about who is the national secretary, who is the national chairman, and mind you, all these national officers, their tenure ends in October this year. Why can't we just wait for that till that October, and all of them will go and we put new national officers? Because if we are not too careful, and I'm saying this as a warning to all PDP stakeholders, if we are not too careful, this party might not have candidate in 2027 because we'll be in court. Because sending names of party candidates to INEC, national secretary must have to sign. If at the time we need to send candidate to INEC, and we are still struggling as to who is national secretary and who is not, who will now sign letter from the party sending names of candidates to INEC?
Okay. Let's get to Mr. Odim. Mr. Odim, let's speak to some of the law, because Mr. Lainka has made some very strong points as to obeying the laws of the party. Are you seeing a lacuna in the constitution of the PDP that needs to be fixed? The quote we're talking about 47.2 says the election of national officers shall be at the national convention, while that of those at the lower level shall be at the respective congresses. But I just saw subsection 5 says any officer elected into the executive committee of the party at any level may resign his or her office by giving 30 days notice in writing to the appropriate executive committee, except in case of resignation for the purpose of vying for an elective office, which shall be effective within the period stipulated in the guideline issued for such elective office by the National Executive Committee of the party or the state executive or respective local government. I wanted you to marry that. That part of the law, is it talking about the election within the, elective position within the party or public office? Let's see whether there's a lacuna or there's a conflict or not.
Well, it's certainly talking about elections within the party, the People's Democratic Party, as a registered political party in Nigeria, and not talking about election into national offices in Nigeria. But is there lacuna in the constitution of the PDP? I think there is. In fact, it's not even one. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and plenty of it. Now, how soon, when last did the PDP amend its constitution? I think there is need to amend the constitution. But in a situation where PDP is unable to hold national convention, a situation where PDP is unable to hold simple meetings and come up with resolution without people carrying things on the table and throwing at each other, a situation where the PDP is unable at the moment, to address the issue of legitimacy as regards the leadership of the party, then how easy would it be for the PDP to sit down as a political party and then amend its constitution? My brother there has said that the offices in the party, anyone who wants to occupy any office must emerge through, the national convention. And I ask, our current national chairman of the party, acting national chairman of the party, did he emerge through a national convention? If yes, which one? And what was the date of his emergence in a national convention? You see, laws, when enacted, they are also enacted for purpose of giving effect to the provisions of the law. It doesn't mean, what happens if someone dies, God forbid, in the middle of his tenure? Can he not be replaced? He can be replaced without necessarily going to the national convention. After some time, you go and rectify it. So the issue of using the national convention as the reason for the tussle in the office of the secretary of the political party, right, I do not think that issue will stand, especially when you put it side by side with the fact that our national chairman of the party, acting national chairman, that has acted for many months now, did not also emerge from a national convention. You see,
well,
the point
I'm
trying to make is
we have to anchor at this point, but you can land on that point quickly. We have to anchor.
Yeah, to land, if PDP truly wants to wrestle power from the APC, PDP must be as organized as the APC was.
There you go.
That's how APC was able to wrestle power from Jonathan and are still in power till today.
Okay.
PDP cannot be in disarray and expect to wrestle power in 2027 from the APC.
Well, we have to thank you so much, Mr. Kemini Udim, member of the PDP. Quite instructive words there, really. The APC, or rather the PDP, needs to get its act together and be organized. But thank you for your time and for the legal perspectives as well. I think this is also very important in the conversation. And Mr. Olayinka, we have to thank you as well. I wonder if the FCT minister is considered as a member of the opposition at this point, because they say opposition are gathering ahead of 2027. So is he a part of the opposition coming together?
Well, let me quickly respond to what my brother said.
No, he didn't ask you a question. This is just a final note, Mr. Olayinka.
No.
You can speak to my question, but we have to anchor now.
I need to educate the public. The national chairman of the party, acting national chairman Damagu, does not need to emerge through a national convention. He emerged through the process of the constitution. When the chairman resigns, the deputy chairman from the zone of the chairman takes over. That is the constitution of the party.
All right.
Then the national secretary, all officers of the party.
We're totally out of time, Mr. Olayinka. But you didn't respond to my question about the opposition role of the FCT minister. I think that's also a very vital point to make. Is it going to be a part of the opposition or not?
Well, PDP as of today should be part of the opposition. But I must be clear.
I mean the FCT minister, Mr. Olayinka. I mean the FCT minister.
No. The FCT minister is a member of the PDP.
That's the opposition.
Whatever the PDP chooses to do, rightly, will be his position. Whatever the PDP does, rightly, in accordance with his own law, will be his position.
Mr. Olayinka, that's not a straightforward answer. Is he a strong figure in the, because we know in Nyesom Wike he was very, very strong and vocal as an opposition governor. He's not been as vocal in terms of opposition. So will he be the strong opposition?
Well, you said as governor. Is he a governor now?
Okay.
He's not a governor. He's not a governor now.
All right. Well, Mr. Olayinka, we have to thank you so much. Very interesting days for the PDP. We don't know how long this will last, but we're here to report all of it. We'll be speaking with Mr. Larry Olayinka, Senior Special Assistant on Public Communications and Social Media to the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike. Thank you once again for your time, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
We'll take a moment now. When we return, we're taking another angle now. What's going on within the state? So this is a national issue, but how about the states? Maybe we're coming to your state next, so stay with us. We'll be right back.